So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good evening, or good morning, wherever you might be connecting in for this session. This is session TA2.18, which focuses on the geospatial data and tools for sustainable and resilient cities and communities. My name's Robert Ndugwa from UN Habitat, based in Nairobi. And today we are lucky to be two co-chairs. So I'll be co-chairing this session with Professor Yifang Bang. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You might want to say
Thanks,
hello.
Robert.
Yes, you might say hello.
Starting. Good afternoon, everyone on site. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you online. Welcome to our session. Our session has 6 speakers, panelists, and we bring together the UN organizations represented by Robert here, and 2 group on Earth observation initiatives, EU for SDG and GUOI, and also academia and national agencies, and importantly, policymakers. We have the mayor, deputy mayor of Kigali with us here online as well. So this session is co-organized by UN Habitat, represented by Robert, and myself and my organization, KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden, and also the Digital Futures of Sweden, as well as GUOI. So welcome you all to this session. And since we have limited time, I will introduce our first speaker, Robert, and you're the head of data and analytics section at the UN Habitat. So Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Yifang. I'll just pick up this pointer here. Can I have my slides, please? So as the slides warm up for the screen, I'll probably take this opportunity just to start off as we wait for the slides. But as per the introduction, I work with UN Habitat, where our main mandate is basically supporting global monitoring of the urban dimensions of SDGs. And as we've heard severally for the last 2 days, I think we are all encountering one similar problem. We need to accelerate progress in terms of achievement of these SDGs. But in our case, for many cities, for many countries, for many human settlements, the indicators we are looking at or the targets we are looking at are very much off track. And for that reason, we have tried to see mechanisms of how to accelerate this specific progress, particularly in terms of achieving the substantive targets, but also improving in parallel the data systems that are supporting us to monitor almost close to real time how and what's happening with all these targets and indicators. So one of the initiatives we noticed early on was the idea that we needed to build more capacities. If you're telling cities to begin to monitor and report on progress, cities traditionally have always been left out when it comes to building their capacities or strengthening their capacities and systems to support global agendas. So as part of the mechanisms that we try to do or put in place to accelerate progress monitoring with SDGs, particularly for the local governments or cities, was pushing for a harmonization. And this harmonization came because the UN SASCO community requested for this, our executive board also requested for this, but also we needed as a UN system, as a global community, what we call a system-wide strategy for sustainable urban development. So the journey to this led us to processing what we now call the Global Urban Monitoring Framework. And the idea behind this is basically to try and see that as cities report and monitor SDGs, they basically do it in a harmonized manner. Unfortunately, what was happening before cities monitor or local governments monitor and report on SDGs in different versions. And when you look at the voluntary local reviews as an example that has come out so much in the recent past, they all use different mechanisms, they use different trackers, they use different metrics, and therefore they were a little bit incomparable. But what we've tried to do here is to harmonize that process in a way that this can be monitored almost comprehensively. There was a history to that. We had what we called the City Prosperity Index that was in place before, but this now has been replaced with what we call the Global Urban Monitoring Framework, which basically allows you to monitor and report on those cities. Essentially, what this framework has done is through many partnerships, many of them listed here, many private sector, academic institutions, local governments, we've processed what we call a core set of indicators that local governments and cities can basically work with as a starting point. And of course, the framework here allows you also to monitor many other thematic areas. If you're interested in the culture endowment of cities, or how smart cities are, or the environmental, the labor, the child well-being aspect of cities, name it, these frameworks basically now allows you to monitor that sort of component. Here is basically what that framework looks like. It's structured into this level of what we call city objectives, which are largely drawn from the SDG 11, but it also has these domains, 5 of them: society, economy, environment, culture, and governance, that are largely drawn from the global SDG framework, but also the new urban agenda, which is a complementary aspect. But we've also introduced in some aspect here of the culture, which was largely left out in these two global frameworks, because cities really think culture has something very valuable to add when it comes to sustainable development or even just sustaining the gains we've seen in the urban. So that has also been introduced. And in this framework, what we basically do, we have indicators that interact with the city objectives and the domains. And here you're able, for example, to monitor safe society and how that connects to the element of safe and peaceful. With society, you get indicators that sit in there. Practically, basically, this looks as this busy wheel. You basically have the domains interacting with the city objectives, and you have a core set of indicators that we work with, 72 of them that you can easily start but adapt or even retrofit based on your context. But with that framework, then it allows you to basically monitor the progress on those indicators. So here's just a quick run through of the indicators. If we just looked at, for example, the element of the city objective of peaceful, these are some of the indicators we have. If it's inclusive, we have those, resilient, and then sustainable. And this is the domain for society. So these slides will be made available. I'll just rush through for the sake of time. But what we have also is for the economy domain. Again, they run through the same structure. And then for the environmental domain, we have them running through that structure. And for the culture domain, again, they run through this similar structure. And the governance one, which is very important. Governance for us and implementation is very important, because MDGs, we learned a very unique lesson that we failed with the achievement of MDGs because we didn't pay much attention to the element of how to implement them or how to facilitate the governance of achievement of those goals. So this is why in this mainstreaming for the local governments and cities, the element of governance is very important. What I think you can do with the urban monitoring framework is it combines both the spatial indicators and non-spatial, because we believe these shouldn't be separated. But also the qualitative and quantitative becomes very important. Again, it shouldn't be separated. So we've integrated them in this framework. And when you do that, it then allows you to monitor almost at the baseline how you are, and then over time be able to monitor the gaps, but also the achievements that you are retaining. So far, quite a number of local governments are already piloting this framework, so they've tested it. We have a proof of concept on that that is ongoing. But I think essentially what is important in this aspect is that we've also integrated the neighborhood aspect of monitoring. This is just the example from Mombasa, where, for example, within the sub-counties or neighborhoods, you're able to analyze quite a number of contextual issues that are relevant to any city or local government, basically allowing you to study your neighborhoods for the first time as opposed to the bigger geographical areas. And it's also very much connected to this cycle, because one question being asked, you collect data and data and data over again. How do you make use of that sort of data? So in this loop, we've tried to ensure that we combine both the data track, which you see in green, with what we call the enablement track, but also the investment track, and then the monitoring of certification. So in our approach, when a city applies this sort of framework, they collect data, they set their baselines, they're able to see what gaps they have. They do investments that facilitate improvement of those gaps that have been identified. And then through the loop, we are able to track the overall performance. And I think the key lesson here, of course, is when a city does this loop, they're also able to seamlessly produce their voluntary local reviews, but more so even inform their investment opportunities, which we see a lot of bankable projects coming through where this process has been applied. So with that, of course, I just wanted to flag up here that also with the Shanghai, they've taken this framework, adapted it to what they call the Shanghai Adapted Index for UMF. And with that, they're able to connect to they're able to connect it to a Shanghai award, which we've been supporting for cities. So cities that perform well are given an award. It's labeled the Shanghai Award because it's initially led by Shanghai, but it's basically built onto the idea of that framework. And there's a manual there how cities can actually adapt and improve in terms of their own sustainability using that very framework. So I will leave it at that. And I would then like to take this opportunity to introduce Professor Yefang Bang to come and give us the presentation for the next session.
Thank you very much, Robert, for the very insightful presentation. Thank you. So we will leave the questions till the end. So can you please launch my PowerPoint? Hi, everyone. So my name is Yifang Ban, professor of geoinformatics. I'm associate director of digital futures. I'm a professor at KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden. So can you please start my presentation? So anyway, Robert has provided a background on the importance of urban SDG monitoring. I would like to tell you a little bit about data in general and Earth observation data in particular, and how to leverage AI in this process to generate data for urban SDG monitoring. Next, please. I will do it. So as you all know, we have grand challenges from retreating of glacier to melting sea ice to flooding to wildfires. Urbanization is one of the grand challenges of our planet. Um, with large small areas, a bit 1 to 2% urban area occupies the planet surface, but it produces over 70% of the greenhouse gas and consume nearly 80% of the energy. So it has a huge environmental footprint. And a city like Hangzhou, it's a urbanization trend. You can see it's expanding as an example here. And cities like Stockholm and others, not only they wanted to know what's happening in 2D as well as in 3D, and what's changed and how to incorporate that into planning processes. So we have huge amount of Earth observation data that acquire data on a daily or every few days basis with global coverage. How can we leverage these global data sets to support sustainable and resilient planning, especially for global south, there's a lack of data. This is what I'm going to talk about. So here we have national space agencies and innovation companies launching satellites, and huge amount of data, petabytes of data have been acquired, and it's projected in the next maybe 10, 20 years, we're going to have 724 coverage of data. And how can we leverage that to support planning? And so here's an example of every 3 days we have data like this in Stockholm, but you do have cloud cover. Then we have these data sets that day and night you can acquire images. It doesn't animate, but anyway, you get the idea. So we can have every 2, 3 days this type of data that's radar. Okay, and then we have high resolution data like this. Again, can be every day acquired by Planet. You can see changes. So what are the opportunities? We have freely available data, time series data. We have high performance cloud computing platforms. We also have different AI models that can be used. But we do have challenges. The AI models are really built for small data sets, not really suitable for this huge amount of global data. And we also, AI needs training levels, large amount of training levels, and we do not have such high quality training levels on the global scale. And also lack of transferability, maybe our dataset training in Hangzhou might not be able to, transfer it to Nairobi in Kenya. So there transferability and how do you generalize it on a global scale. So we do have some challenges. So in examples from my group, we're able to leverage this big data and derive urban information and its changes continuously. So just to show you some examples. So this is a deep learning model we built. If I don't have time to explain here, you can read our paper in the end. So just show you examples. So we're able to extract information by training in North America using Microsoft Building Footprint and apply it in Europe, in Stockholm. You can see it performed really well in different cities globally, and there's a data set in Dar es Salaam as well. So it's tested in 60 cities globally. And also not only you monitor what's there, you also need to monitor changes. These are other deep learning models we built and examples of changes we extracted continuously in Stockholm, in Beijing and Shanghai as well. So not only 2D and 3D, so this is using laser scanning data, so we are looking at change over time. Yeah, so where it's changed on the horizontal and vertical scale. Not only Earth observation can be used to derive what's there, what's changed, we can also looking at, urban heat island and other type of environmental indicators and find nature-based solutions to improve urban thermal environment. So just to show you, Stockholm, usually it's a cool city. However, recently it also has urban heat island, even though it's surrounded by water. So yeah, urban flooding, that's another topic we're looking at, and how to monitor it as quickly as possible and also help city to build the cities more resilient to flash flooding, to urban heat island. And looking at environmental impact, loss of vegetation, habitat, how that affects, flora and fauna in the urban areas. So how to use the data to monitor SDG indicators. So here is an example. We have a lot of global data set. It provides opportunities to do that. And this is part of the SDG 11.3.1 SDG 11 toolkit. And later on, we have a speaker who will talk about the toolkit. However, we do have challenges. When you do a monitoring at city level, you need to know where the city ends. If you only compare administrative boundaries, Stockholm is actually inner city, and Beijing has a large area, including mountainous area outside the city. Then you need to have a better definition. UN Habitat and others have, developed framework for people-centered definition. So we developed tools to build this definition, city definition indicator in the end. It's a tool everybody is welcome to use. Then you can define cities based on the population density and over time, and you can then calculate indicators in a correct way. And also the challenges are you have a variety of data sets. You can see the indicator coming out from different data sets are very different. So which one do we trust? This is also a challenge. So just want to show you, this is an app. You can calculate SDG 11.3.1 indicator automatically using the app. So you're welcome to use it. With that, I will end my talk here. Thank you very much. So our next speaker is online. So can you please play the video? Thanks. So it's Aji is a new NASA lead uh, on the Greenhouse Gas Center at at the U.S. government. It's newly established. She's also the executive director of EU for SDG.
And I'm the founding executive director of the Earth Observations for Sustainable Development Goals Initiative, or EU4SDG. And today I'll be talking to you about geospatial data and tools for sustainable and resilient cities and communities. In particular, today I want to talk to you about an international effort to develop the Earth Observations Toolkit for Sustainable Cities and Human Settlements. And so this is an ongoing effort and collaboration between the UN Habitat, and I know we have UN Habitat colleagues organizing this session and in the room. So really pleased to have worked with them on this effort, along with the Earth Observations for Sustainable Development Goals Initiative and many others from the International Group on Earth Observations. And so the work of this community that has come together has really focused on developing an online knowledge resource that helps bring together participation from city level as well as national level organizations, both government and non-government ones, in addition to Earth observation data providers and practitioners to help really enable the use of geospatial data and Earth observations in particular to advance SDG 11 and the new urban agenda. And so when thinking about the different types of data and tools that are being leveraged and included in this online resource, we're thinking about information that can really help provide or help support monitoring of urbanization, like land cover data sets that can be useful for many SDG 11 indicators, in addition to indices that inform, for example, vegetation indices or different types of data sets that look at air pollution in cities, satellite images of Earth captured at night to help capture this uniquely human signal artificial lighting, in addition to other types of data such as greater population data sets. And so Earth observation data and imagery indirectly supports the generation of disaggregated maps of global, regional, or national population data. And so this can help complement census data and fill in data gaps and also inform several of these SDG 11 indicators. So you can visit eutoolkit.unhabitat.org and find out a lot of information about the different types of data, tools, use cases, and trainings that are available. And the information on in this portal is categorized by 4 main thematic areas: housing, open spaces, urbanization, and public transport. But there are some additional areas covered as part of the different use cases, data, and tools included there. And so I'm showing you here a little bit more information about the different types of resources that you can find through this online, continually updated knowledge resource. And so you can see that you can meet a growing toolkit community and actually be able to find points of contacts for different use cases or for different data sets and tools, and reach out if you have questions, if you want to exchange experiences and information on the different types of knowledge that is being shared. There are 4 active working groups that really aim to enhance impact and help build capacity, leveraging this information on the available in the toolkit, and also help really focus on exchanging experiences from city to city and also from city to country level and among countries. And so this is really one of the main purposes of the toolkit, to become a reference point and go-to place for city to city and country to country learning and experience exchange. In addition, this effort promotes really openness and fairness of the data in the resources and science behind the data to really help enable the reusability and reproducibility of the information, And many of the activities focus on co-learning and also directly supporting countries and cities by pairing some of the earth scientists and practitioners involved in this effort with local government representatives, urban planners, and others. In addition, there are a number of resources and trainings available both in person, and this community also helps organize in-person trainings. And you can find out more again about all this by visiting the web portal at eu-toolkit.unhabitat.org. A number of country and city use cases are also available through the portal. And so you see here the different types of indicators supported and also different country and city level use cases. And I'll highlight just a few of them here in the next couple of slides. And so one of them is how Colombia's National Statistics Office has worked leveraging both methods as well as data and tools that are geospatially enabled to calculate indicator 11.7.1 on access to open spaces in cities by different populations, parts of the population in different categories. And so Colombia's National Statistics Office has showcased the value of integrating statistical and Earth observation data to produce this indicator by leveraging both satellite images from the Landsat and Sentinel-2 programs, as well as census data and population projections to calculate this indicator for a number of a sample of cities, and then expand to really produce national estimates and disaggregate those estimates by different types of population, looking at gender, looking at age, looking at people with disabilities. And so to do this, they've also leveraged the degree of urbanization method that has been endorsed by the UN Statistical Commission and can be used to help independently delineate cities, urban and rural areas. And so more information about this use case is available on the website. Additional use cases that you see highlighted here point to other indicators supported again by leveraging Earth observations and combining that with census data and other local information and knowledge. And so as an example, the South African Space Agency has been working with cities and also statistics offices at the national and local levels to help characterize changes in urban land cover and land use and quantify those changes in comparison to population growth in different major and secondary cities and towns in South Africa. And so this information has been helpful in supporting how um, in supporting the voluntary country SDG report and also tracking progress and understanding where cities and towns are growing more sustainably or where this is not actually happening. Um, moving forward and looking at another uh, use case or project that is currently on the way, and so going now to the United States and focusing in Orlando, the city of Orlando. So here, a team of urban planners and city government specialists have come together with scientists from Florida State University, and they have been looking at leveraging Earth observation data to inform a number of areas of resilience and areas where key challenges currently exist as identified by the city of Orlando. And you see here extreme heat, climate migration, drought, and wildfire being some of the ones that are really highlighted as key challenges. And so as part of these efforts, the group has been leveraging both ground-based and space-based Earth observations and helping create new tools for Orlando officials to be able to tackle these challenges. For example, you see highlighted here on the top right, a visualization tool that enables interactive inquiry of existing ground data. And so this tool helps the city of Orlando to visualize changes in temperature within a given year, and also helps better understand and analyze the data obtained by ground-based sensors in this particular case. In addition, the team is currently working to add different types of plots and investigate variability in data visually, including both satellite and ground data. And so this is just one of the examples of tools that are being developed, co-developed in collaboration between some of the earth scientists and practitioners, and then people that are working on the ground to implement management practices to help really support these key areas of resilience. So next.
Thank you. So we'll move up to speed because we really need to catch up with time. Our next speaker is Professor Shen Jun, and he will be talking to us about global land cover data production in support of SDG monitoring. Professor Shen is from the National Geomatics Center of China.
I changed a little bit the title of my presentation. Currently, my presentation is on SDG local monitoring with geospatial information. First of all, I would like to tell you a story of my experience about local SDG monitoring. You see, United Nations has called on data-driven, indicator-based monitoring towards the progress towards SDGs with many indicators, 169 targets. So they have defined a global indicator framework, but they asked us to use both geospatial and static information. I believe it's becoming a major task, even a difficult task for both national and local governments. I think that's one of the reasons why United Nations is organizing this data forum. So how to do this? We have organized a local case study in China, in Hangzhou, not far from Hangzhou. It's a small county called Deqing. It's a very small county with something like, you see, 900 kilometers squares. But sustainable development concepts were well developed, accepted in that area. So in addition, they have very good basis for geospatial and static information. So the United Nations has organized the first World Geospatial Information Congress there before the COVID-19. So what we did is that we have followed 5 major steps. The first one is localizing the United Nations global SDG indicators according to the local situation. The second one is we have spatial data processing, computing indicators with geospatial angles, means using geospatial data. Then we do indicator and evidence-based analysis, not only for indicators, but for goals and also for goals clusters. A third one, we develop knowledge services. Then finally, we managed to produce a progress report and a knowledge system, online knowledge system. Here, for instance, we have selected localized UN SDG indicator framework according to the local situation, whether there's availability of data, and also how to enable international and national comparison. So you see, we have selected indicators for all the 16 goals. They don't have OSIN. So no goal for 14, yeah. But in that case, you see, we have selected 102 indicators. Among them, 47 were adopted directly, means only 47. Most of the indicators were extended, revised, or substituted. With this one, I will tell you we have very good discussing with people from national, provincial, and municipal Bureau of Statistics. We had more than 20 meetings together. But what I would say is that, you see, with this one, all the 16 SDGs were covered, because for many other studies may cover only 1 or 2 indicators or 1 or 2 goals. By this one, we covered everything. That's why I called it a comprehensive measurement. So we calculated these selected 102 indicators. What's interesting is that 85 we calculated with statistical data, 10 with geospatial data, 7 with geospatial and statistical information. That's why I said to Stephen, the chief of statistical division, the other day, that is why geospatial information is under the division of statistical information. Statistics, you see, geoinformation is important, but it could not work by itself. Then we have organized the assessment of every 16 goals. So it's quite complicated, but we have proposed focused analysis methodology for that, because you see you have many indicators, many goals, 6.1, 6.2, 6.6.6. It's difficult to analyze. So we try to organize that with safe drinking water, water resources, and protecting water-related ecosystem, and using focused analysis with also quantified indicators and also the geospatial information. So the final result is that we see 8 SDGs in that county was basically fulfilled. It's good or very good, but 6 needs to be improved. It's good, and 2 are facing challenge. So we have a comprehensive assessment. Then finally, we did also analysis of social cluster, economy cluster, and cluster for environment. Then we managed to produce progress report. You see, there is a very brief introduction about the methodology. Then we put more emphasis on each single SDG. And then on the 3 economic, natural, social, and environment clusters. So it's interesting that you see for Chinese version, it's 70 pages, but for English version, it's 80 pages. Basically, this report answered the 3 questions. One is how to measure progress towards 2030 SDGs, because the United Nations is calling us to do that. But how to do that? This work answered this question. The answer, how far is the country from 2030 SDGs? We can tell you, and what are the next steps. So the results was released at the first United Nations World with the formal Deputy Director General of United Nations. Okay, and in 2020, UN DESA has released a digital publication on SDG good practice. They have selected 16 practices as good practice. So our work was selected and presented. And this is the only one related to the utilizing of geoinformation for SDGs. So from this one, I just want to tell you, there is a critical role of geoinformation in SDG monitoring. For instance, if you look at these indicators, 1.6.1 basic culture service, geoinformation is used for that. For 3.8.1 coverage of essential health service, and 6.6.1 exchange of water-related ecosystem over time. If I just talked about this, that one, 11.1, all these could not be measured or monitored without the utilization of geospatial information. So I try to summarize a basic nature of that. One is that with geospatial information, you can reveal the spatial distribution of a local development. For instance, this is the census data for the county. With this one, you see you cannot find the spatial details of the population. But with the geospatial information, we can establish a relationship between population density and land cover data. So we use that. Now, this is 30 meters spatial resolution population density. You can see spatial details of population density. If we put other geoinformation, you see a beautiful map about population density with topographical information add on that. And with this one, you can also calculate geospatial coverage of essential services, because United Nations is calling us for geospatially disaggregated data. You see this one, you can see how many people could travel to the nearest health center within 20 to 25 minutes. It's something like 83%. And with this one, you can also identify where are the regions they could not achieve to the nearest health center or hospital within 20 minutes. This is an example for the school bus. You can see how many minutes your kids could go to the nearest school bus. Yeah. And this is another example for open public service of the city, of the county. Yeah. And the second one, I think it's we can use with the utilization of geospatial that we can relate the spatial time process of local development. What's changed? Why it's changed like that? This is one of the famous lake, Xiazhu Lake. From this one, you can see the ecological condition has been changed by moving towards much better situation. This is a change of information of that. Yeah, we use the Landsat image of over 30 years to analyze all these changes, and even you can analyze this change of the some batches. Okay, yeah, lots of things like that. You see. Another one is examining the causes and consequences of local development. I should go quick. I saw a sign of yeah. This is the node system we developed for the county. So the future direction I want to say that you see we need to develop more, provide more reliable data for that, like global, national, regional land cover data for that. I'm working on global land cover data. So, and we should also develop something like essential variables for SDG monitoring. I will not go to details. Yeah. And summary. I think the comprehensive progress towards SDGs could be well measured and accessed with the help of geospatial information. You can see the three major roles of geospatial information, and it depends largely on the quality of geospatial data. But we need to have more efforts to work together. I think before COVID-19, we have good collaboration even with IFAN. But now I think it's time to start. You guys, you're here, we can organize activities, projects, and workshops together. So let's work together towards a better future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Chen, for the very great examples and insightful discussions. I would like to invite Dr. Mupa Vanamaguru, if I said it right. He's the deputy mayor of Kigali in Rwanda, in charge of urbanization and infrastructure. And it's a pleasure to have you join online. So can you please invite the mayor? Oh, yes. So the mayor, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm sharing my presentation. Don't know whether you can see the shared presentation.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry.
Please share. It was sharing. Now it quit. Can you please share again? Yes. It's in the bottom. Can you just run like this? You click on every slide. I think maybe it's better. Yeah, just great. Thank you.
Is it okay now with the
Yes, very good. Go ahead.
with the slideshow?
Yes,
Okay,
very good.
thank you so very much for this opportunity to share with you uh, um, the geospatial data needs for better city planning decision making. And with this presentation, I will also share with you how the spatial data are assisting us as the City of Kigali for sustainable and resilient city planning and building, as well as also resilient community development in the country. So for a quick view on the city of Kigali, the city of Kigali is the capital city of Rwanda, which is located in the center of the country with an elevation that is averaging in 1,500 meters above the sea level, with a population of more than 1.7 million on an area of 730 square kilometers. The city of Kigali, as I was saying, it's a hilly area with its population. It is needs with the population increase. It needs to be well planned and ensure that it's also accommodating the population projections, because in the last 10 years the population was around 1 million, and now within 10 years the population has increased almost to a half. So this is also shows how the rapid urbanization was also increasing in the city of Kigali as in the globe, as on the globe. And this rapid urbanization exerted pressure on different infrastructures, as well as water supplies, sewage, and the environment. Rapid urban growth is experiencing also has also brought more congestion, lack of basic services, shortage of adequate housing, and declining, of course, infrastructure, as I said above. Geospatial data are key and can play a critical role in supporting more resilient urban planning, accurate and timely spatial data, and the necessary tools to convert into meaningful information for decision making can be transformative for cities and help in protecting the most vulnerable from natural hazards. We may say, why? Why do we need spatial data for sustainable cities? In fact, the cities are systems of tremendous and ever-evolving complexity. Guiding an area's development requires spatial information that's robust, nuanced, and consistently updated. The problem-solving skills to apply spatial data information are very key, especially for the urban decision makers. Spatial data points the way to improving quality of life and building sustainable communities. Geographic information system and technology, we can see that it has given a just tool for city planners. For instance, today, it is a very tool that we are using for suitable site selection for urban infrastructure and facilities when it comes for development or for construction, And also the GIS, Geographic Information System and Technology, is also key when to ensure an adequate time distance in planning. For instance, when we are choosing the site selection, the suitable site selection for schools, hospitals, and other kind of facilities. Geospatial data are also needed for telecommunication. As we are advancing in technology, geospatial data and data facilitate and enable telecom network planning, risk management, performance monitoring, reshaping the telecom industry via digital modernization. Geospatial data technologies and of course data and information adds value to telecommunications sector, wherein precise geospatial data helps communication players to identify the best market to develop telecom infrastructure, basis population density, basing on population density and segmentation expenditures. Better infrastructure planning and construction engineering determine optimal placement locations for reliable analysis and modeling of new communication, as well as also optimizing resources and network optimization. Geospatial data are also key, as I said, for urban development. Geospatial technologies and data, as well as their application, are critical for sustainable urban development and the growth of smart cities. GIS technology helps to collect and analyze the data sets to help lower the wastage of resources. GIS and remote sensing applications help to automate land assessment, which helps the administration to identify areas for developing low-income housing facilities.
Mayor, you have 1 minute more. Please wrap up.
Good. GIS tools helps also to provide accessibility to public transport, as well as also basic physical and social infrastructure. The geospatial data technology are very key when it comes to mapping and also availing as the previous speaker was saying, to ensure the land use is also being confirmed. In Rwanda, the geospatial technologies have helped us to map the spread of infections over the time and aid in target interventions. It has significantly assisted in healthcare, especially during the pandemic. The geospatial data was key to help us take some decisions, and even it was the one that we used to know which areas are very sensitive to be put in the lockdown. Developing the GIS-based applications in the city of Kigali have helped us to ensure the development and the optimum use of public infrastructures, as well as also protecting the fragile zones, including the wetlands and the other high-risk zones. In brief, I may say that GIS, as we are using it in the city of Kigali, it helps us in political infrastructure, in transportation, education, health, and also other special and critical infrastructures for smooth and quick urban development in the city of Kigali. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. Thank you. So we just have one last speaker before we go, and that's Professor Haudong Guo, who will speak to us about geospatial big data for sustainable development goals. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you. What I think I only have the 5 minutes, right? Okay, thank you so much. My chair said I title for me is GeoSpatial, but I'd like to use the big Earth data. But the bigger data and the GeoSpatial data have very similar, but a little different. But today, talk something about the SG11, I think just the same. Well, you can see, for the SG11 implementation, we also facing the three challenges. The first one, data. The second one, the localization problem. The third one, interconnections, because, SDG11 and the other SDG have very, very close relationship. We should do study to that. So we need data, we need some technology, we need people and a team. About a half a year ago, we have the new center this morning. I mentioned something about it. We have a new center. The name is the CBART, International Research Center of Big Data for Sustainable Development Goals. So this the CBARs have the 5 missions. The first one, data infrastructure. The second one, research, and the third one as the satellite, and the fourth one, think tank, and the fifth one, capacity development. Well, to SDG 11 implementation, we need, the 5 elements. The first one, data. The second one, digital technology. And the third one, infrastructure, and also demonstration partnership. So already in the past couple of years, we already established a very high level bigger data infrastructure. By using this infrastructure, we can drive the discipline research, and also can use this platform for decision making support. Very important. So far already, we have a lot of the data, and what I call the bigger data and scientific data. You can see 16 PB data, the 40 years data, and the geographic data, geologic data, and the ocean data, atmosphere data, and static data, and spatial airborne data. So data is everywhere. So every year we have the new, 3 PB data. So far, about 174 countries already use the data. Just to have this data not enough. So what about our? Why? Let me to come here. Look like the professor. This is a new satellite. I call this, the satellite name is SDG Sat1. I'm chief scientist. I'm very honored. So, for me, I do the remote sensing special for radar remote sensing, but today I prefer use the optical data. You can see 3, sensors. All of them is about, optical. Here is our glimmer image. Glimmer image, I can say, maybe you cannot find this kind of image in other place. Why? So far today, it's the most highest, resolution, the data here. So here I show you is Beijing, the 10 meter and the 40 meters and the black white and the color, the data. So using this one, you can do study about SDG 11.2, SDG 11.3. And also paper already published. So just forward for modeling the public perception of urban public space and lighting. And also we do the large area, like the Bernard Road area. We do some study about 1,500 cities using the different kind of the data. And also, do a lot of the data analysis around the world. Here today, because it's the United Nations data conference, I want to say share data. Where is data? Data is here. www.sdg said, SEC, and that means, people, my colleagues, please use this the data. So far today, already, 56 countries, people already use the data. So especially, using climate data to the measuring, to monitoring for the city is very useful data. This may be the last slide. Last slide one, I show this. Why? Because the PGI, United Nations, really interested about this work. Who say at the Center of Big Data for SDG in Beijing, I saw something that I had been dreaming of when we crafted the SDGs. So now the dream become reality. So last month, we were invited to New York in the headquarters of the United Nations. We talked something about the collaboration in the future. SDG 11 is so important one. So in the future, we should use GeoSpatial, big data, and bigger data to do the study about the SDG 11. We should do collaboration. I really want to invite you use this data. We can do some the collaboration in the future. So in the future, do what? We should do next for IT11, address the data gap challenge with this and address this incompatible indicator challenge with this, and accelerate IT11 implementation with this one, and make a transformative impact by So I really don't think I have time. So you can see this. That's my talk. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that very wonderful presentation. I think that sums up the set of presentations. It's quite a big load, and we apologize for overflowing this session. But would like to let you go without at least hearing from the audience. Maybe if we have an opportunity for 1 or 2, 3 quick questions that might be very burning. So there's one over there.
Hi, thank you so much for all the fascinating presentations. By the way, I'm Catherine Yang Chuxing from United Nations Secretariat, a data scientist based in the New York headquarters. So in our data team, we also leverage the geospatial data on data reporting to support like senior leadership decision-making process and also emergency responses. So we use like GIS data to visualize, like for example, food insecurity prevalence and IDPs, internally displaced persons or refugees or migration movements, as well as non-violent and violent incidents and protests. Yeah, I can imagine there are many challenges like dealing with GIS data because of the nature of the data itself. So my question is that, so I think for most of the analysis we're looking at is descriptive analysis, which means that we're looking like back forward. So my question is that, is there any predictive analytics like models that you're developing and or working on that you can share or elaborate a little bit? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other question? Okay, so it's just that one case. Professor Yifang, do you want to take that? Predictive models that might be existing, or Professor Guo?
I'll have some quick answers. Yes, definitely. I think, in academia and also in industry, people are developing innovative solutions that can, a lot of, especially now, AI models, like AI for geo. So there are many different ways to deal with this. I wonder if Professor Guo and Professor Chen, do you want to say something as well? Comment?
No, I don't want to say some more.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you. So very good question. Professor Chen, do you want to comment?
I think from remote sensing, you always get what you call static data, even some time series data. If you want to have more predictive data, you need to integrate with models, analytic models. Thank you.
Yeah, we have maybe time for one more question. Yes.
My name is Sanan Zhang. I'm technical specialist with the United Nations Population Fund in New York. My question is to Chenjing Yuanshi. So you give examples of integrating population with geospatial data for all kinds of applications, such as population coverage, like access to health services, open green space, and access to public transportation. So I'm wondering, are these demos just in pilot cities, or actually cover the whole country? And the reason is we are also doing the similar like demos of integrating population with geospatial data, applying to different thematic areas for helping other countries. So I want to see whether there's some collaboration we can do together for helping other countries. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. We have developed basically for the Dutch County as a pilot study area, but we do have the methodology, even the tools for that. If it's possible, we can organize some capacity building together. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Simon, and thanks a lot, Professor Shen. There's one last one. If you can put it in 20 seconds.
We are from UNDP Suzhou Innovation Lab, SDG Lab. I have a question to ask for Chen Jun Yuanshi. My question is how to utility this data. For example, for insurance institute, for insurance organization like that, to help city to protect, to make a city more resilient.
Okay, so I think the question is practically how
to combine the data things to green financings. I think maybe
You see,
it's
well, what we did today, I just said we have finished the 3 steps in the pilot study. One is we use geospatial information to do measurement of the progress towards SDGs. But we did also the second and third step. The second step is we established, convert the report into knowledge, geospatial knowledge service system. You can check and use the system to get knowledge. And the third step we just finished is we transformed the review report into what we call the 5 years action plan for the county. Yeah, so we had a good collaboration with the planning authority. It means from measuring, monitoring to into actions, we have finished that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Professor Shen. I think just in 1 minute, if I can summarize up because we are over time. One, I think will encourage a lot of additional follow-ups beyond this session. But in summary, I think what we've listened to this afternoon is the idea that we are really walking a journey towards achieving SDGs. And from our side, particularly for UN Habitat, where we work with cities and human settlements, we believe very strongly that the SDGs can only be achieved, one, if they are localized, two, if the local systems, the cities, the neighborhoods understand what their role is, and if they get to be empowered. And if we are able to measure that progress at the neighborhood level, scale it up to the national and then global, this is the only way we are going to achieve most of these SDG targets. So that's why we think SDG 11 is, in a way, it's also the docking station for the other SDGs. If we fail in cities, we are going to fail everywhere else with the SDGs. But I think the journey we hear from here is that the tools are there, others are still being developed. We need new partnerships, we need collaborations. Some use cases are already in place, they've been documented with the Earth Observation Toolkit. You have a lot of those. But there are a few others in the remaining 7 years that need to be developed. And I think we look forward to strengthening the partnerships that exist with the private sector, academia, but also all government institutions, but mostly even the citizens and all the local governments. So thanks again for turning up for this session, and we look forward to interacting with you as we continue on this journey for the World Data Forum. Thank you.